Hello, everyone, whoever is listening and watching. My name is Ola Błaszczyk, and I am a soft skills trainer, crisis coach, career coach, HR consultant, and I own my consulting business, Phoenix Education. On top of that, I'm also an expert by experience. It means that I experienced burnout myself. And it caught me by surprise when I was performing my dream job of a corporate trainer. At that time, I was training like crazy. I was traveling a lot. I was changing location practically every week. And wherever I go, I claimed that I loved my job. But with time, I was able to express it with less and less enthusiasm. And there came a day when I didn't get up to work. Although I felt I had to go and it's important to show up, well, my body decided otherwise. It was a very weird and unsettling condition and state I was in. And this day actually initiated a long recovery process. It took me over 6 months to get back on my feet and to feel again fully energized and engaged in my work. And when I was looking for help and struggling to find it on the market of mental health services, I realized that there is no adequate support, no customized service that would help people who experience burnout. So I decided to fill in this niche, and today here I am on a daily basis helping individuals and companies to prevent burnout, to combat burnout, and to make the best out of this experience, which is basically a crisis. And today I'm going to talk in details to you about my practice, the experience that comes from it, and also about the research on burnout. What's in the agenda? First of all, we'll discuss how does it feel, what are the symptoms. Then, how does one get it? So, what are the root causes? And then, how to deal with it, how to either prevent it or to combat it when it occurs. Then we'll have short Q&A session. If you will have questions in the meantime, please put them on chat. We're monitoring chat continuously and simultaneously. And also, I'm gonna. I hope I'm gonna engage you in a little interaction. I'll be curious about your reflection on burnout and your own experiences. So let's get started. First of all, how does it feel? Well, basically, it feels awful and very helpless. And people who experience burnout have a very difficult time to evaluate their situation in an objective way. That's why it's very important to understand what is this phenomenon. The definition is very simple. According to World Health Organization, burnout is a syndrome that results from chronic workplace stress. Obviously, nowadays there is no company, no position, no role that would be deprived of stress factor. But what is specific for burnout is that this stress has not been successfully managed. That's why it built up, and at some point, our nervous system broke down. So this is a serious condition, and in recent years, it became so common and so severe for various industries that World Health Organization decided to include it into international classification of diseases. And now, from 2022, it will be there as an occupational phenomenon. It doesn't make burnout a disease, though. It is just a occupational condition phenomenon that might lead to various kinds of diseases. That's why it requires medical help. And the good news about it is that from the next year, the physicians, psychiatrists, therapists will have actual instrument, will be able to diagnose burnout and to prescribe sick leaves on it. That's why I think it's something that will affect the perception of burnout in organizations and in society. So now I'm going to tell you what are the symptoms of burnout, and while listening to it, you might let me know on chat if you recognize any of them in your environment, in yourselves. Burnout is diagnosed with so-called Maslach burnout inventory. It was created by Christina Maslach in 1981. She was the first psychologist and first researcher who actually was researching on this phenomenon and created tools that support people and organizations in identifying it and then combating. So, burnout is characterized in 3 dimensions. First dimension is emotional exhaustion and energy depletion. It sounds self-explanatory, but I think it's important to emphasize a few things about it. First of all, you feel exhausted. You feel exhausted from the early morning. You have a hard time getting up to work or to commit to the tasks at work. Also, you might observe that if you have certain energy in the morning, it drains out much quicker during the day. It's very hard for you to rest properly. The reason is that your brain is in survival mode and it doesn't fall into deep, good quality sleep. So you don't restore your energy during the night. It's hard for you to rest during the weekend or holiday because this is just not enough time for the nervous system to rebuild. Also, you have less emotional capacity for events that happen to you or around you. So you might be irritated, you might be prone to tears faster, or you get angry and violent in some way. You just lose your temper much quicker. And no matter what is the objective workload that you have, you feel that you work too much and too hard. Then the next dimension is job-related negativism or cynicism. And it shows with the attitude that shows that you are detached from the matter of your work, from the people around you, that you just feel indifferent, you don't care. You might be cynical about it. You might make sarcastic comments, show sarcastic sense of humor. Also make toxic comments, a lot of complaining. Basically, it's difficult to be around you. Such attitude might be poisonous to the team and to yourself, obviously. The fact is that this cynicism and negativism is just a defense mechanism that we take when things get difficult and we don't want to face the real problem. And what is interesting about it is that this is quite common for men. This is usually the first symptom that men show when it comes to burnout. Whereas emotional exhaustion and energy depletion is more common among women. So with such a defense mechanism as cynicism, you can go a long way. You can really be in this state for months or years until you just wear yourself out. Whereas when it hits this emotional, let's say our emotional condition, it's much easier and faster to observe that something is wrong and seek for help. So basically, from my experience, women reach out for help much faster and earlier, and they are able to prevent the damage, whereas men, unfortunately, don't. Then the third dimension is reduced professional efficacy. And it feels like you just don't have any more potential, that your potential is drained, your source of inspiration has dried, and you have nothing to offer to your clients, to your employers, to your colleagues. You feel stupid most of the time. It's hard for you to focus, to solve problems, to analyze, to make decisions. Basically, your cognitive abilities are really limited. And it's accompanied with a lot of fear of losing job, of making mistakes, of being fired. Also a lot of shame because you used to be different, you operated in a different way. So a lot of negative emotions are there. And why all this happens? Well, there is a very concrete reason, and this is the mental energy that burns out. This is not a metaphor, this is not a new age term, it's actually a medical term that means brain's ability to undertake and engage in cognitive processes. So it's hard for you actually to do the thinking at work, to be creative, to be analytical, to strategize, to plan, to prioritize. You just feel lost most of the time. And this is because your brain, again, is in survival mode. So it maintains only the most important processes in your organism to survive. Also, it affects your health because the immune system is also turned off. So you might get a lot of infections. You are also prone to injuries because your body, your muscles are tensed from stress, and you are not that flexible. I think the ultimate bad result of burnout is that it leads to diseases on a cardiovascular level, or to diabetes, and also to brain degenerative diseases. So most of the time it feels like you're running on fumes, and it's very demotivating, and it just takes away the joy of your life. Let me check on chat. Yeah, no questions, no answers yet. If you have already some reflection over your state and your experience with potential burnout, please let me know. I'll be very curious. What is important to keep in mind is that burnout gives sometimes not very specific symptoms, and it can be mistaken for other things. One of those things is bore-out. And this is not a joke, it's a real thing. And this is a syndrome that brings similar results, similar condition, but the reason is different. The reason for bore-out is not enough work, or very dull work that you have to do, something that is very routine, automatic, that cannot be creative, or this is a job where you have to be on duty all the time, but nothing really happens on the way, so you cannot use your energy, you cannot channel it to work. And bore-out is not diagnosed very commonly because people who experience it, they'd rather lay low and don't reveal that they don't have enough work. Usually also they are afraid of losing job, so they just stick around and pretend that everything is okay. But the reasons might be also severe. Another thing that burnout can be mistaken with are mood disorders, for example, depression or dysthymia. The difference between them, though, is significant because in depression, the mood is flat. All the time you feel bad, you feel in despair, you feel helpless, and you just have no energy. In burnout, until it's full blown, there are certain peaks of energy and mood. Let's say you are rather low, you don't have enough motivation, but then there comes a very good feedback, a reward, or some prestigious business trip, or a project you've always dreamt of. Then your energy and motivation increases, but the longer you are in this chronic stress, the less, the shorter it lasts. So at some point, such things do not motivate you anymore, and there might be even a depression episode. Then we have various hormonal disorders that also give unspecific symptoms, and it's good to do medical checkup in such situation. This is also what I recommend to my clients when they show up in my office to just check blood levels, hormone levels, to see if everything is okay. And the last thing are brain degeneration diseases like Alzheimer, Parkinson, or dementia that can give first symptoms already in the 50s of our life. So it's good to be, to check your health frequently. Okay, what's next? So you're probably curious, how does one get it? Let's discuss then root causes of burnout, and let's start with the burnout stages. Here I'm going to tell you how it usually works. Obviously, this will be a generic scheme, generic model, and then we'll get into details. So first of all, burnout is a situation that requires this flame to burn. in the first place. So it requires a situation when you are really engaged and you really care for the job. And it starts with a honeymoon. Honeymoon can be a situation in your professional life when you either get a new job, a new project, a promotion, something that really thrills you, and you burn with excitement and engagement, and you put a lot of effort to make it happen and to be successful. Unfortunately, every honeymoon ends at some point and doesn't last forever, and you get disappointed. And the disappointment usually comes from the mismatch of your expectations and the reality. Usually, this is a hard and unpleasant encounter, but there is still way out on this stage. You don't have to go through the whole cycle because you got disappointed. You can either accept the reality and adapt to it, or you can change it to a certain extent. If you don't want to do this and you will agonize about it, the chronic stress will grow. And then it will build up to a full-blown trauma. Because burnout for our nervous system is a traumatic event. And the result is that at some point you will break down and stop functioning, either physically or mentally, or both. The good thing, though, is that burnout is a crisis, and every crisis is limited in time. Therefore, it will end at some point. It will end after you will give yourself a time to recover. Ideally, if you get some external professional care. And then you have a chance to experience something that is called Phoenix phenomenon. This is a really worthwhile experience because not only you will restore energetically, but also your awareness will change. You will get more mature and aware of your limits, of your boundaries, of your needs, of your values, goals in life. And you can really pursue your career, new career or the same one, but on different terms. And this will be your terms for a change. So it's not that I wish you to have burnout, but I definitely wish, if you already have it, wish you to have this rebirth post-crisis growth. Let me check on chat. No questions or comments yet. I really encourage you to the interaction. It will be more fun for me, for you. And meanwhile, let's move on. So first, I think it's worthwhile to discuss sociocultural background because there is a reason that burnout has become so common nowadays and among younger generations, starting from millennials. Millennials are basically called burnout generation because they are either under influence or part of some global processes that happen, and they have their costs. So first of all, we have globalization. I think we can all agree that there are a lot of advantages coming with it, but also the cost of it is that we are involved in processes that accelerated so much that we cannot catch up and take a break. It's about work, it's about communication, it's about trade, about social events. All the time we participate in it. That's why, well, for our brain, it's just too much. It's not developed so far as civilization did to follow all this simultaneously. Then we have digitalization. I think, especially in IT industry, we can all say that, well, we are on a sort of electronic leash all the time. If it's not our professional inbox, then there are social media or other platforms that require your constant engagement and reaction. And again, there are a lot of impulses, a lot of stimulus for the brain. It's just overflown our capacity. Then we have common access to education. Seems like a good thing, but it creates certain expectations towards the future career and the labor market. People with higher education expect that they all will be managers or will hold some responsible, prestigious positions, but those are limited, right? So again, it creates certain disappointment and frustration. There are also social expectations that are very high nowadays, especially from social media, that there comes this pressure to be perfect and great in all the roles that we play in our lives. And we are compared not only to our peers and relatives, but to the whole world, basically. Then we have high demand for efficiency. This is because of the civilization and technological acceleration, and also the culture of instant reward that happens on social media, for example. And social media pressure, obviously, that's another big subject that we're under influence. So as you can see, millennials are doomed. In a way, the baby boomers and X generation didn't have this problem, at least not to this extent. The research shows that among millennials, there is burnout is like 70%. 70% of reasons to lose job or change job is burnout. Among baby boomers, it was just 10%. Now, let's discuss this in details. So what causes burnout in organization? Basically, burnout is a mismatch between employee and the job. But it's not only in terms of competences or the experience, but also other levels like temper, like needs, like values, like goals. And according to Christina Maslach, there are 6 root causes of burnout that might occur in the organization. So first of all, workload. This is a situation when there is physically more job to be done than the people that are hired. It results with overtime, with unused holidays, and frustration and exhaustion. Then there's lack of control. This is either a situation of typical micromanagement, when you don't give your employees enough space, or you're not given enough space for decision, for creativity, for autonomy, or your position is just limited to a very small piece of a process that you don't have a big picture and you just feel like just a piece of machinery. Then we have insufficient reward. Here we talk about both financial and emotional reward. Financial, obviously, are salary raises, bonuses, other material rewards. And emotional reward is, for example, recognition, is a thank you, is a good job, a tap on the back from the manager, from the people around. Then we have unfairness. And here we talk about unfair distribution of resources, of goods among employees. This could be, again, budget for salary rises, for bonuses. This could be tickets to conferences, to trainings, anything that seems like a rare good. Could be also a manager attention. And then we have breakdown of community. And there used to be, this source used to limit it to the professions that were working in isolation. Like, for example, sales representatives that are always somewhere on the way to the client, or some contractors, people who travel, freelancers. And now it affects everyone, because everyone that is working in the business had experienced it during the pandemic, and we all worked or are still working in isolation, which is really not good for our mental health. Another type of breakdown of community is a situation where your environment, the social group you work with, it's difficult to trust, because there is a lot of gossip, a lot of speculation, dirty politics, and you just cannot trust those people. You cannot be yourself. And now those 5 root causes of burnout can be addressed in the organization, and there's always something that can be done with it. You can flag it, you can report it, you can discuss it, and look for a constructive solution. But there's one that is unresolvable. This is values conflict. So here it's about beliefs and values in our lives that do not match those that the employer has. And it's either a situation where it was a bad fit from the very beginning, or the employer declared some values, but when you enter the organization, you realize that they are not lived at all. That this is just mission, vision, and values on the website, and that's it. So this conflict is unresolvable, and here you have two ways out. Either you just bury it and become cynical, and then it leads you to burnout, or you just leave such an organization and look for a place that is more transparent. Okay, guys. So these were environmental root causes, and I want to emphasize here that this is the majority of reasons that when burnout happens. Basically, organizations are bigger players in the relationship employer-employee, and they have much bigger control and influence on employees' well-being. That's why they are, according to my observations and the research, they're responsible like in 70-75% of those cases. But there's also something called burnout inviting mindset, and it limits to us as individuals. There are certain beliefs, certain attitude that might trigger burnout and leave the door open for those root causes I just mentioned. So what is among those beliefs? First of all, idealism. This is a situation where you have this idealistic outlook on your job, industry, or your profession, and you pursue something that is just not real and is very hard to accomplish. Then we have perfectionism, so striving to perfection and to be accurate in everything. This is very risky because, nobody's perfect. That's for one. And second of all, perfectionists are usually people who feel they are not good enough. So this is usually a deeper problem that would require psychotherapy even. Then we have the fact that person feels indispensable. Let's be honest here, no company wants indispensable employees because it's very costly and uneconomic. Then we have negligence of work-life balance. So a situation where your primary role in life is to be a manager, a software developer, a principal architect, software architect. And when you lose this job due to various circumstances, you just don't know who you are. So this might result with existential crisis. Then we have lack of assertiveness, lack of boundaries, poor time management. That is actually easy to solve because it's enough to go to time management training and then apply all those tools and methods that you've learned there. And then one more deep root cause that might be on individual level is fear of judgment and rejection. And it's quite common in the younger generations as millennials, Z generation, and alpha. Okay, so for purpose of this presentation, I did a research what is the cause of burnout in IT. And there's a whole list of it. First of all, work overload. I think many of you can relate to that. Then poor management skills, because managers in IT very often are focused on technology and soft skills are treated as a secondary thing. Then low quality process, either quick and dirty or processes that do not match reality and there's never time to adjust them. Then we have time pressure and delays, obviously, because of poor management skills and low quality processes. There are delays and more pressure. Then we have unclear expectations. Very often, especially in big organizations, when you are just one person in a big project and you don't have the full picture. Frequent changes of requirements from customers also bring stress. And the result of the work that are delayed in time, since from the idea to the deployment, usually there's a long way and you kind of lost your momentum. And working in isolation doesn't help, is very damaging for our brain, for our nervous system. All right, guys, let's move on. Now let's discuss what are the costs for the organization. As you can imagine, burnout is very costly because it decreases the quality of work. Then there is a big rotation, there's absenteeism, there is attrition among employees, and obviously it costs to hire and train new ones. There is loss of reputation on the market. If there is a gossip that this company burns people out, well, it's not good for the employer branding. Loss of potential profit might happen when we lose key people, and people who burn out very often are key people in terms of knowledge, experience, and engagement. And there's risk of lawsuit. In Poland, not common. There was no precedence yet in our environment because our labor law is very outdated. But hopefully it will change with this new ICD from the next year. All right. So how to deal with it? Let me share with you the practices that I've been applying both to my clients and to organizations I work with. To give you this, the picture of how severe is that, let me just quote Gallup Institute that did the research in 2019 about burnout on a group of 7.5 million full-time employees. 5,700,000 replied that they feel burned out at least a few times a month. So as you can see, this is a very large group of people that struggles with motivation and energy. And obviously, this is why this phenomenon has become so severe. How to spot burnout on an employee? Probably if you're a manager, you will be curious, and this is a part for you. So you can see such factors on two levels. Professionally, you can see that such a person has lower self-esteem when talking to them. You can observe that they don't eagerly take new tasks and challenges. They are withdrawn. They have very difficult time engaging in all those cognitive tasks like concentrating, learning, memorizing, analyzing, solving problems, making decisions. And you know that they used to be different, and this is something that is unusual for them. Then they focus on problems. They cannot really let go of them. They express fear of losing job or making mistakes. And they are afraid that someone will spot it. Socially, they can defend themselves by being very irritated, cynical. They can make those toxic comments. They avoid social contact. If they used to be sociable and join every team building and now they're withdrawn, you definitely might feel something is wrong. If you meet online and they used to have camera turned on and they looked decent and now it's otherwise, then again, it's a thing to worry about. If you also see that they neglect their appearance or they're getting into conflicts or avoid confrontation and then conflicts build up, again, it's something to be addressed. And when there is absenteeism, either being late or leaving earlier or just not showing up, again, seems that there's something wrong with the motivation. So it's important, first of all, to prevent it. And here you can see a grid that includes both organization and individual, because burnout is a problem of the whole system, not only one single person. And those two parties are responsible for two types of activity. First type is stress reduction, and then there is energy recharge. So what can you do as an individual? Obviously, your impact is limited here. So you can influence only what's within your reach. First of all, you need to rest and sleep enough. If you're not burned out yet, just take care of your sleep and rest hygiene. If you are burned out, then what I advise to my clients is a sick leave and then sleeping as much as they can and they need. This is really the best first cure because during the good sleep, brain clears our nervous systems from stress hormones, and then we can restore. Then we have recreation. I don't think I need to advertise sports to anyone. Recreation here is again important as one of the activities that reduces stress. Just make sure it's not another thing to accomplish on your list, because for your brain it doesn't really matter whether it's within or after working hours. It's still a job to be done. Then we have mindfulness. And mindfulness is very popular nowadays. This is a practice and technique that helps reduce stress. Sorry, I'm hearing some noise in the background from the studio. Thank you. Okay, so back to mindfulness. This practice is very powerful in stress reduction. There are courses how to do this. There are trainings. And lately there has been a research that showed that stress reduction trainings are not useful for the employees. They just give knowledge and tools, but no actual practice. So much more useful would be a mindfulness training. And this is what I also recommend to the clients. And the last thing is boundaries. So make sure that you know what you're capable of and what you can commit to, and do no more than that, because otherwise you are on the risk of burnout. Then there are needs of higher level. And first of all, we have relationships. Relationships also have a very powerful role in combating stress. Basically, we are social animals, and we just need a connection. We just need someone to talk to. And ideally, those should be people that wish you well and are kind to you and are friendly, and that their well-being does not depend on you. So either your family, relatives, which is like a natural support in crisis situation, or an external specialist that will help you see your situation in an objective light. Then obviously it's important to pursue your values and to live them, not only to think that you have them, but then again, during the day or a week, they have not been in place. It's also important to have some higher purpose, some goal in life, other than just going to work and then back, and hobbies that bring to our lives element of play, of fun, and forgetting the time. So this is what you can do, but you as an individual are just a fish in the tank and you cannot see the water. The water can be seen by organization that can influence its quality and the processes. So what is organization responsible for? First of all, dialogue. Climate to discuss difficult issues, difficult stuff, asking all those questions about root causes of burnout, and also being available for the employees. If your employees can talk to you about more than just a task list, that when they can vent emotionally with your help, this is already halfway to success. Then make sure that people collaborate, that they, even if they work at home, they are put in the teams, in the tandems, that they meet frequently in person, because again, it reduces a lot of stress and gives us this possibility to vent just with the colleagues and to be a part of community. It's important to give people influence, especially in crisis situations. So make sure that you ask them how they want to do things, what they want to, what way of accomplishing tasks or whatever is better for them. And don't forget to appreciate them, to give them proper feedback. To recharge these batteries as a company, it's important that you set realistic goals that are both attractive and attainable. Very important is to give people autonomy at work, because this will really fuel their potential and motivation. HR has a big role to play here, so if you have HR in organization in place, really reach out for their help, They are very well equipped to support you. And then working ergonomy is important, especially when working from home. This part is sort of companies lost control over it, but all the more is important to attract people to come to the office and to use the comfortable conditions to work effectively. So let's move on. Now I'm going to tell you how to deal with an employee who's burned out. If such a person approaches you and shares such a problem with you, it's already a very good thing, because it means that they trust you and they are not afraid that you will judge them or fire them for being for having some bad time. So there are 3 levels of intervention here, and what you can do as a manager is, first of all, to identify the stressors, to discuss with employee what actually is wrong, what brings the most stress, and then limit them. Then, if you feel capable, you can work on the attitude of this person and discuss with them what do they think about the job, their level of commitment, and so on. Maybe they have some unsupporting beliefs that should be verified. Such people have the cognitive abilities limited, so they might need support in planning, in prioritizing, in scheduling tasks, and you as a manager should step in. Then, if there is some toxic behavior in relationship, you have to put a stop to it. And also, if the employee behaves in a toxic way, you also should set him boundaries. If you're not capable of doing it or it's not enough, then you should involve HR and ask them for some crisis talk with employee, with investigating the root cause and providing some systemic solution. Also, psycho education and promotion of mental health creates a climate of openness to talk about it. If still it's not enough, you can also invite independent experts. Many companies use nowadays employee assistance program, which is kind of a mental health hotline where people anonymously can call and discuss their problem. You can also invite crisis intervent when the situation is, on the edge of some serious life or death crisis. You can order burnout prevention audit, and then a workshop that would solve issues that are present in the organization. And then I'm gonna tell you about the limits of responsibility for employee well-being. If you're a manager, remember that this is your role. You're not a therapist, you're not a friend, even if you are, but your primary role in the organization is to make sure that employee has comfortable conditions to work effectively. And now let me tell you what managers usually do but shouldn't. This comes from my clients that tell me what were the reactions of their managers to the fact that they're burned out. So first of all, belittling the issue and saying that, oh, you're exaggerating, it's not true. Well, if employee tells us they are down, they're in a lower condition, we take it as a fact. Then many people take it as a personal offense and a judgment of their management style. Well, it might be true sometimes, but here we should be a bigger man and look at this issue from a higher perspective, not only our own view. Then many people are judgmental, and this does not help neither relationship nor the state of the employee. Some people try to diagnose, and it's also not a way we want to go, because if you're not a certified therapist or a crisis coach, you should not go this way. Some people try to play shrink. We don't want to do this either. Giving advice on mental treatment might be risky because, again, employee might take it as a judgment. Suggesting sick leave might be taken as an approach to get rid of the employee. And again, it might be taken against you. We don't also solve employee private issues, but what we can do is, first of all, to take care of health and safety, so make sure that the stress factors are limited. Hear out without judgment. This already helps a lot. Then acknowledge that this is a fact, that employee feels bad. Then discuss facts. So again, those stressors and what can you do about it. Focus on solution. If you have HR as a support, ask them to help you and to be both support and witness of the situation. Provide obviously some business continuity as a temporary solution, and then respect employee privacy in terms of sharing this information with others. So agree together if you're going to share it with the team. If yes, then what exactly, so that the employee feels secure. And well, this is what I've collected for you for this presentation, and I'm very curious. How are you going to prevent burnout in your work environment to make sure that it doesn't hit you or your employees? That's all, folks. Now back to the studio. I was very pleased to talk to you today.